Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current cultural and social issues through a clinical lens. Hello, hello. All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. We know there's lots of options out there for you, but today we're going to bring to you something that I think is going to be very, very helpful, at least for some of you. You're the problem is something that we have been talking about here at Healthy Perspectives for the last couple of years, off and on. And today, You're the Problem, episode 2 for 2025 is dropping right now. Here's your tip of the day. Carve a different path. Pretty simple, right? Well, we're about to find out how simple it is. So before we get going too far, I gotta give you a little story to get you into this one, because this is important. About 1996, I know because that was the year that I went in the military. I joined the Marine Corps and I left in March of 96. And sometime between March and say June 19th, 20th, somewhere in that vicinity, there was this really interesting thing that happened that kind of caught me off guard. So one day, I'm at 29 Palms, California. I'm on the base. I decided I'm going to go to the E Club. The E Club, for those of you who have never been in the military or don't know the military, how it works, the E Club is just this, it's a bar / hangout spot. Well, I go to the E Club. I'm young. At the time, I was only 17. And so I couldn't drink, but I could hang out in there. We could play pool and do stuff like that. That being said, so this weird thing happens while I'm in there. This is during my MOS training. So we're just, fresh out of basic training. I had been away for several months, and all of a sudden this song comes on. Most of you have probably heard this song. You're probably familiar with this song. But at the time, it was brand new to me. It was, and everybody in there started dancing the Macarena. And I'm like, what in the world is happening here? Because I hadn't heard that song. Sometime between March and June of 1996, this song exploded in popularity. And me, I'm like this 17-year-old kid, and all of a sudden I'm hearing it for the first time and watch everybody putting their hands on their shoulders and on their hips. And then, I'm all like, what in the hell is happening here? I was so confused. And so I looked at one of the other Marines standing next to me. I was like, what is happening? And when they're like, you never heard the Macarena? And I was like, no. And then it registered for them that I had been away for the last 3 months, kind of in a sheltered space, not being able to gather much information from the outside, but through letters. And let's be real, I didn't give a crud about the Macarena in a letter. So even if somebody had written it to me, I would have been like, whatever. I don't care. Macarena, whatever. Okay. So I was caught completely off guard because I had missed a key piece of information. It wasn't because I was dumb, because I didn't care. It was just because I missed it. In that particular situation, makes all kinds of sense. And we could empathize with the 17-year-old me and say, that's all good. But here's an issue. This is where it becomes a problem. I'm going to take you through another story today. This is a story that hit me just last week. And this is a real story. This actually happened. And I was caught off guard a little bit. Okay. So hang with me. Remember, we're looking at carve a different path. That's the tip of the day. But here's what I'm gonna give you the punchline first. The right and the left politically, they function exactly the same. They do. They function exactly the same. And if you don't like that, you're part of the problem. If I irritated you when I said the right and the left function exactly the same. Now, yeah, they have different angles that they come at sometimes, but they look, here's the reality. I'm just going to skip right to this and then I'll tell my story. Uh, the right and the left, when they are in power, when they have the power, what they try to tell you and me is that everything we're doing is good, may not be perfect, but it's good. And the other side is still evil. Both of them do it. I will show you. Okay. When they're not in power, the right and the left function exactly the same. They tell you they are evil and we must do everything to make life hard for them. That's it. I just solved all of your political woes. By carving a new path, I'm saying there's a better way. A better way. And I'm going to tell you the neuroscience behind it. But before I do, let me tell you what brought this to my attention. So I was out there on X, and there was this post, and I'm going to read it verbatim. Okay. Just to be clear, this is what it says. Elon Musk bought the presidency, used Doge to kill investigations into his businesses, gave himself billions in government contracts, and found no waste, and then bailed. Okay, first of all, there's all kinds of falsities in there, but that's okay. It was interesting. It was interesting. Why was it interesting? Because not because of who said it, because they're clearly not very intelligent. It was interesting because at that time, here's my initial response, which I will get to. There was a point of naivete in here, okay? I didn't do something as well as I should have, or I didn't know something that I maybe ought to have known, or whatever. Okay, so here's what I said. It's very interesting that they talked, Doge, talked about waste a lot, and the Republican Party. And we still don't know what the waste was exactly. We just know that there was some waste. They have gone down the rabbit trail. Now, that was a piece of me being a little bit naive because I missed a key piece of information. Just like when I was back in basic training, I can't be perfect. Neither can you. I went on to say, it's also interesting. They aren't telling us what they will do with all the savings. Now, I know this is in the background here. I already know that has to go through Congress. Okay. So, but the message, the administration gets to decide policy and direction. And then Congress can then allot to, hey, we want to cover these things. Anyway, go on. The silence is reminiscent of the same problems I had with Biden being in the office. Okay. So my naivete was that Doge has not told us exactly what the waste is. Why was that naive? Because like I gather a lot of information, but I miss stuff. And I missed the Doge website. Okay. So I think that's forgivable. I know it now. I'm not stupid. I learn. I can grow. So, you know, the first one comes to the first person comes in and says, this is literally well, I don't know if it's the first person because they're not in order. But you know, comments start coming in. And here's why I'm talking about carving a path, folks, because I needed information that I didn't have. I got the information eventually because this person, Russ O, says to me, at Doge can be helpful. I'm like, at Doge? Okay, sweet. So we can find stuff on X. Another person says there's a doge.gov. It's all there. I went, doge.gov? Fantastic. I can get the information in a couple of spots. Okay. So a few gave me helpful information. And what did most people do? This is why I tell you The right and the left are the same. This is exactly what I would have expected from the other side during the Biden administration. Things like, that's because you're too lazy to read, which factually, I probably read more than most people, probably more than the person who posted that. There is a whole Doge page. That was another good one. Let me get to another one. Give me a second. I'm getting to it. Let's see. Here's one that went off. This is, by the way, not helpful at all, right? When we talk about carving a new path, when somebody's missing information, give them the information and see how they respond with the information. That would be helpful. But no, this person and probably hundreds of others come in and do the same kind of thing. If you go on YouTube and watch recently uploaded videos, you can get stuck in these loopholes and all of this stuff. And then they go on and they say that you're an idiot. Dude, it's literally on the Doge website and the X page. Okay, cool. I got it. Have you dingbats even gone to the Doge site? Not helpful. The mouth breathing stupidity is astounding. No, there's naivete, people who don't know pieces of information. And then there's stupidity, people who can't figure out information. Okay. There's a big difference, right? There's, like the detailed examples Musk gave that you never heard because you still think MSNBC and CNN are credible news sources. Not helpful. By the way, during the Biden administration, you would have seen the left saying it's because those same exact comments, just on the other side. That's why they're both the same. And hundreds of more examples of that. Not only that, but recently also, just to paint the picture a little more fully, there's this guy named Ed Krasenstein, or I don't know, he's not a smart guy, just in general. But here's the thing. This is interesting, folks. When we talk about carving a new path, we can't do the same old things. So during the Biden administration, here's what I would have expected. I would have expected that the Republicans or the right would say things like, if the FBI comes to your door, don't open the door, right? Why? Because they are evil. Remember the message. And make it hard for them. Okay. And, a lot of you bought that crap, but okay. Okay. Ed comes on, makes this big, long-winded, like he always does, post. Do not open your door for the ICE agents unless they have this. And he goes on this rant about make it hard, make it really difficult for them, right? Another example, Congressman, I don't know how to say this guy's name, Sri Thanadar, says, it goes on this big old rant about impeachment on the House floor. Why? Because the message, remember what the message is, folks. When you're not in power, your messaging on the right or the left is the same. It is, they are evil, make it difficult for them. Okay. If they're in power, we are good and they are still evil. Okay. We are good and they are still evil. All right. Now, he goes on this rant, Congressman Sri, which ends up doing what? Wasting a ton of time, unnecessarily, by the way, and accomplishing absolutely nothing. Nothing. Okay. So let's walk this through. We have the right and the left are the same. We have sometimes people miss information. They miss information, not misinformation. They miss information. So what could we, ultimately what we do differently is what we're going for. What do we do differently? Before we get there, though, there's a couple of things I want to do. I want to go over a little bit of the neuroscience. And just before we do that, I do want to say, just to all you haters out there who are just causing a nuisance instead of being helpful, which, by the way, some of you were being helpful. So thank you for those of you who were being helpful to me. I appreciate that. There's a couple of things. One, stop pounding your chest. You are just as capable as being naive as anybody in the world. You could be missing information also. Okay. As a matter of fact, everybody that responded to me with comments like, oh, because you don't read, oh, because you believe CNN and MSNBC, oh, because those were all people probably as naive and maybe dumb, but as naive as I was at the very, very beginning. Why do I know that? Because they don't know me. Because if they knew me, they wouldn't think those things. They would know that I'm very skeptical. Matter of fact, maybe to some degree, I could say that they're not only naive, but dumb, although I won't, but I could potentially, because the forum that they're on, I have access to my podcast on there. They very easily could have sought the information that they were looking for about my perspective, which, by the way, is this. I am a centrist. I'm not right or left. I lean in a direction, but like 80% of the population, and I don't do that just because being part of the 80% is the cool part. I do that because the extremes are where stupidity actually exists. You got really smart idiots on the extremes. They're intellectually smart, but they're dumb as rocks on the extremes. And so I don't go that direction at all. At all. What I do is I stay in that middle 80% because that's where the wisdom is. The problem we have right now is that there really are three categories. There's the right, there's the left, and then there's the centrists. And the centrists are just too damn quiet. The people with real wisdom and knowledge and experience are just too quiet. They aren't speaking up like I'm doing here. They aren't saying, whoa, y'all are getting too far out. And if you don't come back, then unfortunately, we're going to cut you off. Not because we hate you, but because you're dangerous. So stop pounding your chests. Humble yourselves. I had to humble myself. Think about this particular. I started off with this. I have been naive in the past. And I ran smack into some naivete again. It happens, folks. And if you think you are above it, you are dumber than all the rest of us. And that's not a judgment on you. It's just, you are dumber. It's just a reality. Okay. Take a breath, Jeremiah. Here we go. Let's go to the neuroscience. We got to get to what can we do differently, right? In order to carve a different path. So let's talk about the neuroscience of it and then extrapolate out to the social and cultural. Okay. The neuroscience suggests that we have neuroplasticity, which means we can grow. With new information, we can make different decisions. Okay. So we have to, with neuroplasticity, here's the first rule of thumb. In order to change our path, we have to open our minds to the possibility that the path we're on isn't the best path to be on. What? Yes. You want to change a path? If we want to change our path as a culture, we have to first acknowledge that the path we're on may not be the best path. Could it be a great path? Sure. We could be on a great path and find a better path. Could it be a bad path? Sure. We could be on a bad path and find a good one. But we have to acknowledge and open our mind to the possibility that there's a path better than the one we are on. Okay. That's neuroscience suggests in order to carve a new path, we have to first be open to it. Second, the tendency to go back to an old path is very powerful in neuroscience and in reality, in social arenas and in culture. Same thing, extrapolate it out. How do we know this? Here, I'll give you an example. You get off the school bus and you're going to go home, but you got to cut through a field to do it. The first day, you carve this path. You get to a body of water and you go around the body of water. And voila, you get to your house. There you go. The second day, you come in and you see the grass is kind of falling where you carved the original path. So what do? You carve the same path. You want to go back and carve it again. And over time, what happens is you keep carving the path, and that path, the grass doesn't grow the same. And so it gets more obvious and more easy to travel along that path. But let's say, for example, in this scenario, what you realized at some point, because, you know, maybe you were out with your parent and you were playing with a drone and you got up above and you looked down and you went, what? I'm going all the way around that way? I could just cut straight through this way, just go over that little hill, drop down, and I'd be at the house twice as fast. Okay. So what do? The next day you get out off the bus and you're like, all right, new path, new day. Boom, you carve the new path. And the first time you do it, you're like, this is great. Why? Because everything was in place. Life was going good. You were excited, and it took you like half the time. But the next day you come in and there's a little bit of dew sitting on the grass. You're like, I could go that path, but I'm going to get all wet. So I'm just going to go back to the old path. And you go back to the old path. Then the next day you come in and it's dry and you can't see the new path that you carved 2 days ago because the grass got all perked up because it got a little wet. So it perked up and you're like, where was that one? You're like, I know it was in that general direction, but I can't really tell. So what do? You either carve the new path again or you go to the old path. But if you carve the new path, you're still restarting the trail. It's a brand new, a second time, a third time. And it could take you 30 days to carve that path and make it look similar to the other path. And that would be called a new neural network. Okay, the same is true culturally, socially. We have to change something and we have to sustain the change long enough that the new neural network is in place. Now, let me tell you, in neuroscience, they say it's between 12 and 16 months to carve a new neural network, meaning a new path to create a different way of going about things. That science there's still a lot of growth going on in that science. So we're going to continue to learn more about that. Is the path visible and enticing after 6 months or 3 months? Maybe. But what that means is that the old path hasn't grown over. And so there's still this pull in that direction to that old familiar path. So when I talk about carving a new direction, carving a new path, a different path, it's not easy. So in the examples that I provided for you earlier of people telling me, like, start with this. If you want to do something differently, always start with this. Give them the information that they might be missing. Start from a very neutral stance that maybe they're not dumb. They're just not informed on this particular issue because it happens to all of us. Start from there instead of this aggressive, I'm going to be right and you're an idiot mode. Pound your chest. I'm a gorilla. We don't need that. start from the neutral, give you the information, give them the information, and then see how they respond. If they're like, oh, that's new information, I didn't have that. Well, then you just helped somebody out, and you're going to help carve a new path because they're not getting attacked by people that they shouldn't be getting attacked from. Does that make sense? I hope you're tracking this. So be that neutral. Start with the place from that maybe they're naive, not dumb, and see what happens. But no, that's not what happens with the right and the left. So what could we do differently when we are in power or not in power? From in power, here's what I would suggest. Since the rule of thumb when we're in power, right or left, is all is good with us, we're doing great, and they are still evil, I would start with this. We are doing the best we know how, and some of them might be evil. I'm not suggesting that evil doesn't exist, folks. I've done podcasts on that. What I just did by softening that language, going from what exists right now on the right and the left of we're good and they're evil, by softening it to say maybe we're doing the best we know how, leaves room for humility and growth. But more importantly, acknowledging that some of them aren't evil, they're just naive or uninformed. They missed the Macarena, okay? They just missed it. And some people remain naive for a very long time, folks. It can happen. And so what I would say is, don't assume they are all evil. Know that some of them are, but don't assume that they are, because the evil is on the far ends, folks. It is. Okay. The other one that you could do differently is when you are not in power. And by the way, I did push this on with both sides, when there's left and rights in the office. Though I lean a direction, I push this, not that they are evil, make it hard. I say some of them are evil. So it's not about making it hard for them. It's about make sure you stand on your morals. When you are not in power, you have got to stand for something so that people can come along and join your team. Okay? So it's not they are evil, make it hard. It's some of them might be evil, yes, which you say that always just to be aware. And my job isn't to make it hard. My job is to stand on my morals. I hope that helps. Folks, if you can't see this stuff, whether you are naive or dumb, you are part of the problem. Me being naive, I was part of the problem in a comment. I was quickly adjusting once I had a few nice people give me good information. I'm like, oh, sweet, there it is. But if you think anybody is going to care more about what you say when you're a jerk, I'm going to tell you, you're wrong. And if you're naive about that, you probably need to get informed, because it doesn't work like that. What it does is it tells people there's more evil than opportunity. And we can't be pushing that message. It's a bad idea, folks. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you for joining us. I know there was some stories in here. Please like, subscribe, tell all your friends, get the word out there. We're trying to help people out, and we'll see you next time. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.